in talking about that eating frequently throughout the day piece, we want to make sure that our athletes are eating the 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks every day. I always say snacks are sort of optional, so you can include those if you're hungry. That's the important thing to remember. Include those if you're hungry. So 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks every day. Eating 3 foods at a meal. So having a sandwich, an apple, and a glass of milk. Or having, for breakfast, the big one, everyone eats too little for breakfast. 3 foods at breakfast. So it's going to be, I love toaster waffles with peanut butter and banana and some yogurt. Something like that. So put some combinations together, and we'll go through each meal in a set. Combining 2 foods at snacks, making sure that they're not only eating an apple, but eating an apple with some peanut butter. Not only eating a cheese stick, but having a cheese stick and a piece of fruit. And the reason why we combine those things together is because if you're just eating cookies or whatever, you're just eating fruit snacks, what's going to happen is blood sugar level is going to go up, and then what? Crashes. And do you know when it's going to crash? In the middle of your practice. That's the bummer. So if we can get them to think that pre-practice snack, is it anybody practice in the morning? You guys do, okay. So if you're practicing after school, the pre-practice snack, the one that comes immediately when school's done, needs to be that combination food of carbohydrates and protein or fat, because if they don't do that, then that blood sugar level is going to crash about halfway through practice, and that's when you're going to get this. Not paying attention, not being able to stay focused on what you're asking them to do. If you're a morning practicing person, so important to stress for your athletes to have something before they come. It doesn't have to be breakfast, it can be a snack, but I would check with every single one of them to make sure they have breakfast with them, and it's not just one thing, that it's got to be 3 things to get that fuel back in to replace what they use during practice so they don't get too hungry later on in the day. That hunger is what's going to get you every time, because when we're too hungry, again, we just don't make good choices. Color and variety, adding in lots of color. I always say try to shoot for at least 3 colors in every meal. So if you're eating something and you look and it's all brown and white, those don't count. So try to add in some brown or some red and some green and some orange. Get lots of color in there, and that's what's really going to help, again, boost vitamin and mineral. If we have more vitamin and mineral coming from food, we process energy better from our food, and, big one, reduce our risk of colds and flus. So it's not the worst when your star player has a big cold and can't perform, right? Or, and so that boosts immunity. More vitamins and minerals from food boosts immunity and helps reduce our risk of injury. That's the other one we want to make sure we're keeping in mind there. We want to make sure our timing is about every 3 to 4 hours. If we go much longer than that without eating, again, blood glucose level gets low. Our body's going to be using more protein for energy. So if you didn't eat breakfast this morning, your body's using a lot of your muscle tissue for energy right now. And then it helps keep our brains focused. Again, how long are your practices? Just throw out some numbers.
3 hours.
3 hours, 2. Okay, so somewhere between 2 to 3 hours, it sounds like. And about 2 hours in, 90 minutes of kind of stop and go type of activity, our blood glucose level is declining really quickly. So we want to make sure that your athletes, especially if you're a 3-hour practice and it's a really hard 3 hours, that they've got some kind of either sport drink, a snack, a piece of fruit, something coming in towards the end of practice so that they can continue to keep that mental focus up. Because otherwise, if our blood glucose level is declining, we can't continue to process. So if you have athletes in your classroom or students in your classroom before lunchtime, often do you see them kind of like having a hard time focusing? It's like a tricky time for athletes and for just regular students.